you talking to a reporter, he understanding it and writing it, writing a column, and his editor editing it, something else coming up on the front page, something in the article because of place constraints, and eventually the reader. There are about 4 to 5 filters which actually happen in the process, where probably the entire gist of it might be changed a little bit, not necessarily because I've said anything wrong or the people have understood it wrong, but to actually put an entire context in place is very important. So rather than going into the specific one line, which I'm not unhappy about, because I think today we are having this conversation because that statement came up that way. I think it's important.
You wanted to wake up people with that?
I didn't think of waking up, having woken up. I would rather take an opportunity to make them understand what the real scenario is.
Something must have provoked you, no, to say this?
No, year after year, Smita, I see players, I see hardworking players, parents actually bringing them, burning their resources, time. And then you realize that not everybody makes it. It's not their fault. It's the nature of sport. They don't get the jobs. They don't get a secure future. And they come with a big dream, and the dream is actually shattered. I come from a very middle class family. Many of my players who've made it also come from middle class families. Across sport also, if you look, actually it's the middle class and the poorer people who actually have made it.
Correct.
That's the reality. When I was playing, and why this came up was, when I was playing, I wrote an engineering exam. I failed the engineering exam, and my parents said, Gopi, you get a year to play. If you win and get a job, then you can play. Luckily, I won the junior nationals that year. Most importantly, I got a job in Tata Steel. And that's the only reason I continued to play. Today, when I see national champions, when I see Commonwealth medalists, when I see Asian Games medalists not having jobs, and that starts to pain me, that what is the future they have? And this continues year after year. Now, last year was the Olympic year. You don't talk this language at the Olympics because that is important. The previous year was the Asian Games. The previous year was the Commonwealth Games, and the previous year was the Olympics. So last 4 years literally. And now also, if I don't talk this up, we will talk about the 40 odd players who are in the top scheme who are supposed to make it to the Olympics. Next year we'll very easily forget about the rest of the story and talk about Commonwealth Games, Asian Games. 2027 we'll talk about Olympics, and 2028 is the Olympics. 29 we'll have a change of guard in terms of new people coming and taking charge of various policies. And then 2030 we'll have a youth Olympics, and then the cycle starts. I've seen Olympics after Olympics go by. The number of people, I go in the morning at 5, I see players with a dream. I know out of them, even though I might be the most successful coach, I see more failure than success. And I'm saying, boss, I know you cannot make it. But the guy is thinking, I will make it. And then I'm saying, what is the future you have? And I can't tell it to the player because I'm telling him, you will make it. Because he can't think that he is not going to make it. He's going to think he's going to. But I know out of the 100 people, one might make it. So where is the safety net? And that's all I'm concerned about.
Safety net. Correct. Couple of things which makes me think. See, one, why so much, why there was so much of shock and there was so much of, why is he talking like this, is also because generation after generation, no, we've only read about broken dreams and broken stories, right? And suddenly now we are winning medals, we are winning matches, we are winning tournaments, our guys are doing well. So there is this resistance that we don't want to hear the negatives.
Correct.
You understood?
Correct.
Too much of disappointment we have faced in India in the field of sports for a long time. Now everybody wants to hear of success against all odds. And when the Dronacharya of badminton says that the odds are insurmountable for most sports persons, it came as a shocker. Maybe
Yeah.
that is the explanation I can give for the, as they say in Hindi, bawal mach gaya, why it happened. Did you think about this aspect of it?
No, if somebody were to come to me and say somebody has said, Gopi has said that only the rich should play, I say what rubbish. Everybody should have a chance to play. If you look at what I've been speaking over the last 10 years, I've been speaking about a proponent of something called physical literacy. Everybody should have access to play. We as a nation have grown alphabetically and numerically over the last few years. But we as a nation have gone down physically over the last few years. Our parents are fitter than us, our grandparents are fitter than us. And what happens to the next generation is a problem we actually are staring and scary to look at.
You know, when you're talking about safety net, that there is no safety net for the players in the sense of not getting a job. Like you got a job. Most players would say, railways mein naukri le lo. You know, this is what parents say, that get a job in railways, get a job in steel authority of India, get a job with SBI, somewhere get a job, bank job or something, and then also do your sports by the time you hit your 20s, because you don't have a degree as compared to the others. So this lack of safety net is what you were talking about. But to many of the children who got into these sports, there was no fallback option. So let's go into this screen. The reason I'm saying this is because if in case we have some expats who haven't followed Indian sports, this is what it is. When we're looking at Yashasvi Jaiswal in cricket, you know, Lavleena in boxing, when we're looking at Deepika in archery, Mirabai in weightlifting, and Pragnananda in chess, all these people come from that lack of safety net families, right? That no fallback option. These are the people, and this is just I'm just skimming and giving you a few, right? All of us know about how the lack of going back, fallback option, baap ki naukri nahi hai, baap ka business nahi hai. That's the reason there was that killer spirit in many people, no? So, but when you turn around and you say that, look, middle class families, there is no safety in sports, so just watch out if you don't have a safety net for fallback option. Doesn't that jar as to what you said?
Smita, the thing is that out of the 100 people, maybe a percentage or less than a percentage are these numbers whom we are talking about, who gain celebrity status, who are taken care of. There's no problem with us, rather. Even I am also in that status where I've made a great life out of sport. That's 1% of the population, or even lesser. Then you have maybe another 4-5% of them who comes from rich backgrounds with parents who can afford a failure and still end up in a family business. No problem. There's no issue there. Maybe another 10% come from families who are very poor and who have a 40,000 job, and it's an upgrade to their lifestyle also. That's also not a problem. Still you're left with a 75-80% population. There is actually a substantial gap in the ecosystem. When I was playing, I went to school till 12th, and after 12th is when this call was to be made. Today, with the nature of education, the nature of sport, people at ages 7 and 8 stop studying almost completely, and they start focusing on sport, various sports. And then when you reach 18, 19, 20, you actually spend the best years of your life, the most productive years, when everybody else in every other career is actually building up a CV to earn more for the rest of their lives. Here are people who are actually spending their best years, and if they don't make it, then what happens to them is the big question which I'm saying. I am addressing this to the parent who has an only child. I am addressing to the parent who's talking about his children. I'm not talking about the larger ecosystem. Like, I as a country would love my country to win. But this is actually telling and talking to the player that, boss, you just be careful, think twice, that you need to also educate yourself. Sports needs education. The society needs to have a safety net. And we all need to work together to ensure that we build that into the system, because when you look at big countries, you fail also because the nature of sport is like that. Out of 199 will fail. When we know that 99 are failing, why are we as a system not taking care of them? Nobody has spoken. Today, if you look at the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, this problem, when I was playing, we were 30 of us used to play. There were 20 jobs. No problem. Hyderabad had 3 badminton courts. Today, probably there are 2,000 badminton
Isn't
courts.
that good, Gopi?
Yeah, so there are so many more people who are playing, but so many less jobs we are getting. So this is a problem which has happened because the Prime Minister goes out of his way to meet players. Today he inspired a nation. He has made this aspirational for all of us. And now this problem also you have to solve. All I'm saying is this is a problem which is existing in the ecosystem. There are people who will exit out. Just ensure that you handhold them and let them exit properly and give them a life of respect, educate them, skill them, and when they grow in life, they're happy that I'm a sports person, I've tried out, but the society has taken care of me. That's the major
I
point.
want to bring this quote of yours, which you said, reality of sports is less than 1% of people who take up a discipline end up having it as a profession or career. Think of what has happened to hundreds of people who've represented the country in the last 20 years in various sports, won medals. Where are they today? What is their future? What is their earning capacity? This is your exact quote. This is what you said. When you said this, it just got me thinking. The reality also is that people join the armed forces, short service commission, people serve in banks, public sector undertakings, in hospitals. They're serving, they don't win medals. Some of them don't win medals. If you're in the armed forces, maybe you win a couple of medals. You get out of the forces. What happens then? They also don't have any skill sets as such. You worked in a bank. You have to find your way. Maybe you've learned another skill set. Maybe you learn how to invest in the stock market. Maybe you learn, you become a security officer somewhere if you're in the forge and you've done Agniveer or something like that. You have to find your way in life, right? You have to find work which gives you a respectable income after you finished what you were doing for 10, 15 years of your life, which you have given in the service of humanity or in the service of the nation or whatever field you were in. That is how private sector works, isn't it? How much of hand-holding do you expect and who do you think should do the hand-holding?
I think I don't have answers for all of the questions. I know this problem exists and it's a big problem. For example, universities in the US, right? People go to school, go to college. The college system educates them. They also win medals. Like Stanford won 34 medals this year. UCLA won 17. Loughborough won 16 medals. If they're going to college, they're studying, they're also playing. And once their career is finished, they easily mix into or amalgamate into a system otherwise. So those systems are there where this is done in those places. Now, this influx has actually happened only in the last 10 years. And again, I would say, thanks to the Prime Minister, this influx has actually happened. We're like 1,000 times we have grown over time. When I was playing, we would have tournaments with 10 entries, 20 entries. That is what the numbers you would have. Today in badminton, we have a tournament, an age tournament, and we would have 3,500 entries. We have more than 10,000 players playing national level events every day. And you know that which one will win is a debate or question mark, but you know that only 10 or 20 people will actually win. I am saying the rest of them are not going to win. So are we thinking about them? And let's put a system in place, as I am saying. Yes, this definitely exists in the army and other areas also. But at least they have a job at hand. I'm saying some of them, and I'm saying from the top, if you were to look, take care of the top 40 people. I know in badminton, for example, Teresa Jolly, Tanisha has played the Olympics this year, no job. Dhruv Kapila, no job. Teresa Jolly, Commonwealth, Asian Games, Asian Championships, and All England semi-finalist, no job. Was when I was a junior national champion, I got an officer job. And this time at senior national champions, national games champion doesn't have a job. National champions get clerical jobs. Take care of at least the national champions. Once we take care of them, at least take care of a little next step. Take care of 40 people initially. Take care of 400 people
Take
next.
care means what, Gopi? Give
Educate
them jobs.
them. No. Jobs are not the answer. Skill them, educate them, handhold them. I have people who have in badminton who've gone at 30 to 35 years, gone and got a scholarship in universities, become doctors at that age. They've played sport, they've taught themselves, and then they did other things in life. Give them loans to start businesses, handhold them, mentor them into becoming businessmen, give them administrative offices, take them to Mussoorie, teach them administration, because a guy who's actually running a 400 meters in 50 seconds or 55 seconds, boss, the amount of hard work he does is phenomenal. A guy who can figure out where the attack is coming from on a hockey field has the intelligence far more than many of us. So why can't we use that skill to ensure that he actually has a good financial backing for the rest of his life? There is no problem with the job part. Smita.
So where is the problem? What I want to know from you is that, okay, to me it seems frankly is that you were trying to provoke people to wake up or to do something about it, whether it is industry or government or public sector. I'm thinking, my instinct tells me that you were just hassling people to get up from a slumber, not just rest easy on the laurels that the sportspersons are bringing, to do something about it. My thinking about you is, that is what you were saying. You were not exactly dissuading people from poorer families to dream big.
Correct.
Am I right in that?
100%.
Because if that is what you're saying, it would really shock me.
No. We all come from that background.
I can imagine a disgruntled player or somebody who's had too many knocks in life saying it. But why would you, who is so successful and has contributed so much back to the game, say something like this? That's what I can't understand. Understand.
Because I'm not talking for myself.
Okay.
I'm not at all talking for myself. I'm pained by the hurt which my athletes face.
Okay.
You go to an office and you realize it's not the same. You're 50 years old, you're an Olympic medalist. You go to an office, and if you are to report to a guy who is a civil servant at entry level, it hurts you. You go to a SAI, and if you're a senior coach, you have to report to a 27-year-old who gives you a charge sheet. It hurts you. We've worked hard in our lives for where we are. And not all of us have the motivation also to build an academy. Because when we actually start off, everybody, all of these champions are phenomenal people with great skills. But they don't have the motivation. When an army guy comes out, he can be a great person in training. But when he comes out, he is not very successful in business because he doesn't find purpose in life. We are like that. We don't find that purpose. When we are playing, we have supreme purpose. We have supreme motivation. Back when we go out of the sport, we don't. I was very lucky because the day I finished playing, I started coaching. And when I coached, I loved my players. And when you love somebody, you give it all you have. I did everything possible for my players. Not everybody finds that success.
I didn't mean it. I seem to have upset you.
No, not at all. Not at all, Smita. But this is reality. I'm only saying it's reality. I see players fail day in and day out. My heart goes out for them.
Yeah.
It's just that it's not the same. My heart goes out for them. It's not about me. I've made it big. Today I can stop playing and I'm done.
Yeah. I get that.
Sorry.
Um,
And it's no offense about it. It's not no offense that,
No,
but
I
this is the
totally get-
total scenario.
Yeah.
And we need to look at it. I'm not angry about it. I'm saying this is actually scenario. Let's all work together
Haven't
and figure
you-
a way it out. See, when I'm looking at it clearly, 1% superb life, we give them all of it. Like 5 crores, 1 crore, 2 crores, land, jobs, the names, everything is perfect. No problem. They might have issues with whatever, but that's a smaller issue. It's not a big issue. They can figure a life out. The next 5% also not a problem. The next 10% who come from very poor backgrounds, also it's still okay because it's a jump in their lifestyle.
Somewhere,
I am okay. Imagine you're coming from a middle class family and you earn about a lakh and a half, and you want your kid to have a better lifestyle than you. Where are the jobs? You're a national champion. You're number one in the country. Out of all these people, you're number one in the country. All you end up is getting a bad job. Now, you don't have the skill sets. You've ended up at 25, 26. You don't have the skill sets. Now, he can't go back to college like in the US they do. Colleges, we don't have the support system. All I'm saying, let's look at the support system. Address this issue, because even if you are the top 10 percentile, also if things are not great for the middle class, then what do you think? Think twice is all I'm saying. But I am not dissuading them.
Okay.
I'm saying, boss, this is the reality of it.
Do you think that they don't know, that parents don't know that, look, there are 11 spots in a cricket team, right?
They're very
There
hopeful,
are
Smita. They're
single.
very-
They know that the only way to win is to be that one person. And if you don't, either you're nasty to your kid for not having one, or you are encouraging your kid, ki, chalo, if not this, then there is something else for you. And then the child has to have that grit and determination that, bhai, I've lost this game, I'll bounce back, I'll stay on, and I will. These are the things that the staying power or not staying power. This is what is the difference between a champ and not a champ, no?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
There is something called an opening balance, your genetics. There's so many other things. In all my life, it's not that the most hardworking people
Correct.
have won. It's
Of
not
course,
like that.
sure.
There's also luck, there's God's grace. You might just think of this, that somebody has super potential.
Huh.
He's actually on the verge of becoming a champion, gets one injury, and he has to stop playing. What happens to him? Who takes care of him?
Who should? What is your suggestion? That there should be a committee?
I'm saying there's no ecosystem at the moment. I don't know what needs to be done. There's nothing at the moment which addresses this issue.
Well, you must have thought this through, that when you brought this up, people will ask you, "Kya kare bhai?"
I don't have all the answers. I don't have the answers. So when
But you're on so many committees, no, Gopi? Advisory committees and all that, they call you. Did you bring this up? Do you feel the bureaucracy is not listening to you in your state, in the national level? Where are you finding that insensitivity of not understanding?
Because people come for short term. The thought is next Olympics. The thought is short. And this is a long term issue. This needs to be addressed.
Okay, so would you like the Khelo India committees? Would you like the sports minister? Would you like the prime minister level intervention? What do you think should be done?
I think it's not just the government. It's not about the government. We as society need to start thinking. Everybody needs to contribute, take the issue up. We need colleges and universities. I'm happy IIT Delhi, IIT Chennai started something. We need more colleges to work. We need state governments, central governments. Corporates actually have come and joined. We
Okay.
need them also to start
So corporates, please listen in. This is a dire situation which Gopi has brought out. So if you are watching, listening, if you have family in corporates, please tell them that we can't just make magic in the sporting arena. We need to look after this so that we just recently ran the podcast with the Indian Army chief, who said that because in the Indian Army or in the military service, all three, Indian Army, Navy, Air Force, there's this thing that the soldier knows that if anything happens to him, his family is taken care of. So he fights out there. He knows that even if it's his last battle, his family is taken care of. So even in the sporting arena, if they know that we have a job, we have a sustainable income, we have that job security, then they can give their all. So if you have relatives, friends in the corporate sector who can help out in this, who can form some kind of an organization to help the sportsmen and women to have this kind of job security, reach out and do your bit as citizens of the country. I've done
so
my
much.
bit,
Thank you
Gopi.
so much.
Let's see, hope somebody responds. Let's move away from this topic. Let's talk about your career, your life, your dreams, and let's talk about your life as a player, your life as a coach. Can you tell me a little bit as to how it began for you as a dream, and where in your life are you at this stage with that dream?
Well, I started playing in 1985. My father worked in a bank, so he was moving all around. Every 3 years, he would have a transfer. So we came into Hyderabad. It was time after the 83 World Cup, so everybody was super interested in playing cricket. I broke a few window panes in my apartment.
Okay.
So my mom got a little worried because neighbors were complaining. So she took me to the stadium to join for cricket. Cricket admissions were full. So she took me to the tennis court. Years later, she told me that there were too many cars parked outside. So we didn't want you to join
Oh my God.
tennis. And then I went and
Why?
joined.
Because
It was expensive sport.
so she presumed that, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah.
So she said that only rich people can play the sport.
Sport because and then we went to the badminton court. It was empty and there were admissions available, so I joined badminton. So then I joined and I studied, not too interested in studies. I love to play all the time, but we had to study. So I did my intermediate, which is in Hyderabad, we call it intermediate, 11th and 12th, with maths, physics and chemistry. I wrote the engineering exam, I failed, and my parents gave me a year to play decent. If you play well, then you can continue playing, because they knew my heart was into playing. I played that year. I played for the country. I won the Junior Nationals 1991. But most importantly, when I turned 18, I got a job in Tata Steel. And that was the beginning of my badminton career.
Tell me about your coach and about what your schedule was like when you just before you became a champ. I want to know the rigors of and the discipline to become a badminton champ. I never got to interview Prakash Padukone, who was like this hero for me in my generation. And then, of course, because when I was in school, college, he was for me the hero. But
So for us, my journey would be like morning 4:30 to 5. I had to get up early and study out loud so that my mother could hear in her bedroom. And then if I did that well, then at 5:30 I would get to go to the stadium. And
how
then
far is the stadium from home?
2 kilometers.
So you walked it or cycled?
Walked, cycled.
Huh.
We had a cycle later, but initially it was walk. And then
Mom came with you?
Brother.
Brother came.
Brother and
Older
me.
brother.
Older brother. But otherwise also I would go alone. And
What did you carry with you? Tiffin, water?
Nothing.
So none of those protein drinks and all? Nothing.
This is a different age.
Yeah.
This is the 1985. It's another
I get
era.
that, but I want my viewers and listeners to know about this, right? Because if they're sitting in America, they had the protein drinks even there.
Yeah.
There
So
was
we never did that. We just went, came back. I would just reach in time to get to school
No,
at
wait.
9 o'clock.
Wait. What is breakfast?
What is breakfast? Whatever mom made, it would be roti and dal or roti and omelette.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then go to school.
This in Nizamabad?
No, this Hyderabad.
Hyderabad, okay.
And then I would go to school 9 to 3, 15. So when I...
Which school?
St. Paul's.
St. Paul's. Okay.
When I won the All England, when I went back to school, the teachers remembered me as the person who came last to class and who was the first to run out of class.
Okay.
Because if you went early to the badminton court in the evening, you get 5 to 10 minutes more than everybody could play. Because everybody would go to school and come by 4:15. If you reach at 3:45, then you get that half an hour more to play.
Did you have to book a court or you just
No,
walked in?
no.
Because booking a court means money.
No, back in the day, there were only 3 badminton courts in Lal Bahadur Stadium for the whole city. That's all. So we were lucky that I stayed close to the stadium and I could go there.
Okay.
But if my father was posted somewhere else and he was far from the stadium, I don't think this would have happened.
Okay.
So the journey is very different. So,
Huh.
so your challenges back then were very different. No, you go to the stadium morning, you're waiting. Mehboob Saab, our watchman, so, jaldi aa jaye to acha hai, kyunki you get 5 minutes more. You go inside, current hai ya nahi,
Huh.
shuttles hai ya nahi, coach hai ya nahi, players hai ya nahi. You go to the ground. If there's a shadi, then you can't run. So those were the challenges, very fundamental. They were not like sports science, psychology, physiology kinds.
So when you won your first tournament, before that, like there was nothing in the sense of you didn't have a fitness instructor, you didn't have all the physio, and you didn't have all that.
No, I think this is much later, much later.
So-
So even when I won the All England, I didn't have a fitness trainer and a physiotherapist. So in 1994, I had an ACL tear, and I had another surgery in 96 and another one in 98. And I didn't have a physio then. The only person I had was a doctor called Dr. Ashok Rajgopal in Delhi. And he did the surgery for me. And
AIMS?
No, Segal Nursing Home.
Okay.
So he was the one. But that's all. But nobody, we didn't have a physio. In my entire rehab, I never had a physio.
So all the rehab, everything that you did was at your cost, or did?
No cost. He would tell the exercises and I would do it. That's all.
Okay.
That's all. So it was very different from here.
So it was just basically raw talent that you had, and your skill. There was hardly any-
support. There was doctor helped. Intuition was there, and grit and hard work was there.
But what I'm trying to figure out was that your technique and all that, there was nobody to hone that.
So for me, I was very fortunate in my life because I had some great coaches whom I worked with. Hamid Hussain sir was my first coach between years 85 and 89. He never taught me how to play, but he taught me how to love the sport. He made me love coming to the stadium. And he was phenomenal. He would call me Chua because I was very small. But he was fantastic. He made me love come to the stadium. So when I'm actually teaching a young kid, I want to be like what he was to me. Then my next coach was Arif Sir. Arif Sir was a strict disciplinarian. He was like 6 o'clock would be like 6 o'clock. And if you come at 6:01, you're like thrown out. So he taught me discipline. Then I had Prakash Sir, whom I trained with in Bangalore. For me, if Prakash Sir had not won the All England in 1980, we would have never dreamt that an Indian could win the All England. For us, that reference point was him. He was that inspiration. He was supremely important. Then I had another coach called Ganguly Prasad. He was more like a friend to me. In the last years, when 99, 2000, 2001, when I won the All England, we were like friends. I would pull his leg, he would tell things, but we would actually work together as a team and we could crack the top. But I also was very fortunate to have two Chinese coaches, Wang Xiaomin and Su Yan, Wang Xiaomin was 91 and 92. And Su Yan was in the 97, 98 when I was in Germany training. And these two people really helped me. So I was very fortunate that my experiences today as a coach are primarily from these people whom I have owned. But it's only by chance that all of them fell in place. And when I think of it in my journey, I think it's supreme God's grace that I got these people all through my life.
And also, you probably didn't have the kind of distractions in life that, as a young player, that today's young players have, right? There were no cell phones, There was no Instagram. There was no social media. There was no trolling of if you lost one match, if you lost one game.
It was very different then. The story of Indian badminton for me is 1994. We didn't have a team sent to Commonwealth Games because we were not even good to be in the top 6 of Commonwealth nations.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say to you, that I come from that generation of that, watching that humiliation of my country. So when you and Prakash Padukone get all this, even though you're the only two ones, all India, all England, right?
Yeah.
In spite of the fact that you're the only two Indians to do it, but still, our hope rests still on you both, no, to bring up the champs. So that's why when you said those things, it was like, why is he saying this? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I completely understand. And today when I look back at it, thankfully I said that. Because I've been saying everybody should play sport for the last 20 years and nobody listens to me. At least the headline made people wake up.
Yeah.
And I think probably it was important that we actually have this conversation.
Yeah.
Because we need, today the numbers are huge. People are inspired. People have an aspiration to be. So we just need to take care of the exit points. We are doing so many things good. We have the Prime Minister interactions. We have top scheme. We have Khelo India, which is fantastic. We just need to, on an athlete we are spending 6-7 lakhs and there are thousands of them whom we are spending that money on. We have 1,000 Khelo India centers. We have centers of excellence which have come up. Private entities have supported. Corporates have done it. So there's a lot good happening. I'm supremely happy with what is happening. It's not that I'm unhappy with what's happening, but I'm saying just take care of these points. These are very, very critical.
So you want to plug these?
Plug these. So we are doing so many nice things that this area is actually left vacant. So let's get the exits sorted out. And when exits are happening, just handhold them a little bit, because imagine the guy who's playing at a young age, at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and he goes through the rigors. He knows how to fight. He knows how to win, lose, grit, determination, discipline. All of these things come out of professional sport. So I would love every kid to play professional sport. And then at age 12 or 13, you make a realistic check. If he gets a chance to be a world level athlete, invest all the resources in him. If he doesn't have a chance, drop him off, transition him into some other field. He'll be a great engineer, he'll be a great commentator, he'll be a great doctor. He'll be better than anybody else who's not played sport. So that transition is important, because if he doesn't have potential to be a world class athlete and win medals for the country, then he should not waste his time here, and we should not waste our resources there. We need sports science to come out and say that, boss, it's time. You're not a failure because you're not won. It's okay to not win. It's acceptable to not win. It is all right if you're losing, because the nature of sport is such that very few will win, and it's not the mistake of the kid.
No, get that. And I think parents need to know that also.
He can work extremely hard but lose. I've seen great hard-working kids lose. And society is looking at saying the champion is the one who's worked the hardest. No, it is not. The thousands of them who worked even harder but probably just didn't make it.
There are some who say, okay, cricket mein nahi mil raha hai because only X number of players can go. Try football. You're a good athlete. You run well. You are disciplined. You have had some basic training in sports. Play football. Play something else. Play some other sport where there are more chances of making it. So there are many options. What I'm trying to say is that it doesn't end. The dream doesn't have to end if you don't make it in a particular sport. I had Sunil Chhetri, for example, in the show, and we were talking the same thing. That initially it was like, मैं ये कर सकता हूँ, मैं वो कर सकता हूँ, कौन सा sport खेलूँ? I'm good at sports. I know I'm fit. I have the wherewithal. So which one should I pick up? You don't have to necessarily have your dreams crushed with just one sport and not making it. Would you say that is an option?
I think of it like this. No, say if Mary Kom has played for the country for 20 years, the next to Mary Kom has not made it any but in the last 20 years. If a wrestler has made it, Sushil has played 3 Olympics, then the next guy we don't know who he is. So the very nature of sport is that you have very, very little numbers there. And back in the day, we had people like even my generation, people like say Javagal Srinath or a Kumble or a Dravid or say Somaya or Zafar Bhai. We actually had education and sport go together. Today what is happening is actually either you're completely going on the education side, you have people going to NIT, NEET and IIT exams from 6th class onwards, or you're actually doing the same for sport. You're completely going on the sports side. You need a system which actually combines both, as I'm saying. And all these transitions which you are talking about, see, passion is one side of the story. Passion and competition don't go together. Passion is passion, but when it comes to competition, then it's another level. It's like where there is passion, there's no competition. You do it, you are excelling for yourself. But where there is competition, it's beyond passion. It's like for the country, it's a do or die, it's a battle out there. So you need such resources out there. You need such people out there who are like there. It's like every breath you take is for the sport, for the country. You're forgetting about yourself. And the only chance is I'm going up, going up, going up. And he can't even think of a safety net. Because if you have a plan B, then the plan A doesn't work. He thinks that plan A is the only plan I have. I have no option but to succeed. So it's people around who have to provide the safety net. And that would be important. So whether it's transitioning from sport to sport or making them realize their potential in other fields. But at the end of the day, they should have a good life. They should earn decently well. And if they're successful as a sports person, we should take care of him is what my point.
I want to come to the two women in the sport, Saina and PV Sindhu. What did you see in them, that spark that they have, which is different from anybody else? You've trained with them. So what is it that they have, that enduring spirit of winning? What kept them on? What keeps them on?
Well, Saina was maybe about 13 years when I started coaching her. At that time, Indian women, they said, were not strong enough. Because at least in the men's side, we had me or Prakash sir or even Dinesh Khanna or Suresh Goyal or people in the past who were actually achievers at the world level. But women, we didn't have the same highest level of women. So they would always say, yaar, apne ladkiyan taakatwar nahi hai. That's the kind of language you would get to hear. We needed somebody who actually had the guts to actually go and break the glass ceiling, as they say. And that we needed somebody with a mindset like Saina's. Because I was like, Bhaiya, kaun hai? And I said, yaar, aisa hi player hai. And I would say top 10 players, and it's not an age where cell phones or internet was so much. I say, aisa hi player hai. And I said, Bhaiya, maar diya, bhaiya. And she was that kind who would be like, go out there and just push and achieve kind of a thing. So once she did this, then I think everybody started to believe. And I think Sindhu was one of the only ones. She was there from much longer, much younger as well. So she went out there. Both of them physically very strong, great work ethic. And Saina, especially in that initial years, of course the entire years, was hungry and hungry and hungry. She would want more, more, more. And we needed somebody with that attitude, because even when she won her first satellite event or a challenger event, she would have been the best Indian women ever. But she wanted more and more and more. And that's the reason, I think, hats off to her. And Sindhu has been phenomenal, because to have a career so long and to perform so well over time, I think both have been fantastic for Indian badminton.
So there's physical endurance, of course, that you need, a lot of it. Tell me about the mental makeup. You as a coach, how do you make champs? What is the mental makeup of a champ?
I think one is you have to love what you're doing. That'll be definitely one of the things on the priority. You want people to come out there. When they lose, they have to be smart enough to forget that and believe that the next time they're going to win. And that mindset is very important. And then trust, belief. For me, I think these components were very important as well, because both of these girls had blind faith, and that really
That is
helped.
necessary, huh?
That is important as well, because especially in strategy wise, you're telling some insane strategies. In the sense, you play here, she will play there, and you go and tap it. And that's like a lot of confidence you need to say that, and a lot of belief of the athlete to actually trust you to do that. So I was very lucky that I had these athletes who had that trust in me, and luckily for me, God's grace, things delivered, so I could keep the trust going.
So I've had musicians and artists on the podcast, and there is this thing, like all these gharanas and all that musicians have, they will only promote their sons or daughters. After a certain level, there's that glass ceiling where you can't, because that Guruji ki daughter or Guruji's son is the one who's the inheritor of the legacy of that gharana. They just will not pass on the art to everybody automatically, and then favoritism ka charge hota hai. You can help it, it's art. That is, many times they say the coaches also do that. They are not fair. And I know my children were into sports, and I saw that for myself, this happening, this favoritism part. In some cases, they would say that, look, the coach saw the magic in that child and needed that. In other ways, they say, nahi, wo uska beta hai, wo MP ka beta hai, minister ka beta hai, and that is why this is happening. In some cases, it is regional parochialism. I want to bring this out. When Jwala said, if you notice, there were players from other states when Gopi used to play. So there was a time when top players used to come from different parts of the country, but for the past 10, 12 years, only players from Hyderabad or Telugu players are in prominence. If a player is from one particular academy, he will get recognition. If India wins a medal, it's because of Gopi Chand, and if we don't do well, it's the system which is to be blamed. This is what Jwala had said. Would you like to tell me what happened then?
To be fair, I think Jwala is a fantastic athlete. We've actually, she's done very well. For the doubles department, I think she's been really a role model. I've had a lot of good players, and at some point of time, everybody believed I was God. And at some point, they've said I'm a demon also. I had limited time. I couldn't spend all. I wish I had many clones of mine whom I could depute to take care of. But the reality is that I had limited time. So when I started coaching, I thought I'll have a great life and I'll ease off and I'll come at work at 9 o'clock or something. That 9 became 8, 8 became 7 because I added key players started doing well. And from 2010 onwards till 2020 till COVID hit, I was up at 3:45 in the morning and 4:15 I would report to work because I had so many players with me. And I would have batches of one after the other coming. So I picked players based on my intuition of saying there is talent, there is I see a spark and I need to spend time and I see them growing or they are hungry kind of a thing. But never have I ever done, and definitely the nature of sport is if I have 100 people, I can only pick 4 people there. I have only time for 4 or 5 people. If I spend time on 100 people equally, we'll never produce a champion. That's another model. This model, you need to focus on, like for example, Saina or Sindhu or any of the top players who've made it, Srikanth or Pranay or Sai or Kashyap. At a point of time, I would spend 5 hours with each person every day. Because like 2 hours in the morning, before, like if Sindhu were an example, before Rio, I would spend 4:15 to 5:45 in the morning again 9 to 11, 10:30 in the morning, and 3 to 4:30 in the morning, the evening, I'm spending 4.5, 5 hours only with one player. And then I would spend the same amount with the next person who's qualified. At that time in Rio, I would spend the same amount of time with Srikanth. And Kashyap always had this that, Bhaiya, you're not spending time with me. But it's not to do with anything. It's the nature of sport or the way we are. We don't have so many coaches. And my personal attention had to be taken to 2 or 3 of them. So it happened, and we have players all the players have said I am God at some point of time. But also many of them have actually said things which are very nasty sometimes. But I'm okay with that.
So yesterday you would have seen the India-Pakistan match, right? And after the victory ceremony, Virat was interviewed, and he said when he was asked, "How do you?" I mean, he's a champ, he's God of cricket, right? And he was asked, maybe Sachin's people are going to go after me now saying, how can you call Virat the God? So apologies to Sachin fans and apologies to Rohit's fans and apologies to all other fans. I don't mean that he's the only God. Fortunately, we have many gods. So when he was asked about this, he said, I cut out the outside noise. How important is it, and how much, like, do you tell your players also to cut out the outside noise, which is cut out if you've lost a match, if you've lost a game, don't go into social media, don't see the hate, don't see the trolling. Is that important for a player to cut out the outside noise?
Oh, it's very important. For me, I don't have Instagram or Twitter or any of those on my phone.
Dinosaur, Gopi Chand is a dinosaur. Okay.
So even I get affected by it.
Okay.
And I don't want negativity. I just want to focus on the things which I'm doing. So even I don't want. And when I was a player, I was supremely vigilant about having negative thoughts around. I would block people off because I think you have to believe that you're going to do it. Even if the whole world thinks that you're not going to make it, you have to not believe, you have to know that you're going to do it. And that's the entire story about it. And nobody is going to believe, but you have to believe it. And it's very important that you cut out all the noises. You might be lucky with a few players who can manage with the noise, but I am not one of them. And I would completely block it. And I'm saying, I don't care. My racket will do the talking and I will not. So I have followed that in my journey as a player and as a coach. And so you would rarely see me make a statement, and this is probably the first time in 20 years that I've...
You yourself said that you were called Chuha.
Yeah.
So here's a Chuha which is road, right? So let me come to one point which I briefly touched upon, which I just want you to, before we wind up, I want you to talk about this. You haven't touched any of the food stuff which is in front of you, so that's why I'm coming to this question. Diet. Is there any specific diet that you have followed in your life? And do you, because I asked some of the sportsmen who come out here, some of the dietitians who come, that, you know, vegetarianism, there's a whole talk about vegetarianism is because Virat is a vegetarian. So it's like, where is the protein coming from? And Sunil Chhetri, who's also a vegetarian, who said that, यार तुम सोच रहे हो कि तुम दाल चावल खा के sports person बन सकते हो? नहीं होता. There is, sports persons have a specific diet to give them that energy, to give them that strength. Have you tried any diets, got disillusioned with it, and fall back on some other diet? What do you suggest?
Well, I've been crazy. I've tried every possible thing in terms of training and diet. And if I knew something, I would always try it and then follow it. So initially, when we were playing, it was about good food and enough food. That is what the 90s was about. But what it actually did is, when I stopped playing, I was allergic. I had inflammation. I had lots of issues with my health. So I had to back down. My sugars were starting to get high. And so I had to try out different things.
Why? Because of genetics or
Because
stress?
of
Or
back in the day, carb loading was the thing. And we just would load ourselves before matches with carbohydrate and sugars. and that was not the healthiest way, but back in the day that is what was thought about. But later I had athletes who were struggling, so for them I tried different things. I was keto, I was paleo, I was vegetarian, I've lactate, non-lactate, all of that stuff I've done. I've been intermittently fasting, if that's the word. That's a lifestyle from almost 2011 onwards.
How many hours? 14, 18,
16 to 18. 16 to 18.
16 to
hours.
18. Okay.
And I like to eat, when I'm eating, I want to eat a full meal and I'm happy. So I go back and do a normal, good Indian meal with, I have 2 lovely cows.
Okay.
A2 cows.
So you're not a stay away from milk protein kind of a person?
No.
Okay.
No. I think A2 milk is great. A2 curds are good, and our Indian desi cows are fantastic.
Okay.
So I really love them, and I have them. And luckily for me, over time,
So the keto diet didn't work for you?
keto worked.
Keto
Worked initially. It worked.
Okay.
Initially, but to sustain a keto diet when you're not the most important person of the family, because kids are growing up and their demands or their diet is important. So I just do a normal. I'm not so fussy about it.
So I'm not going to name any 1 or 2 countries, but in badminton, you see a lot of these Southeast Asians doing so well. What is it that Southeast Asians do better than the Europeans in badminton?
Culture is there. I think everybody, like in India, is playing.
Like in tennis, the Europeans get it. It's a racket game. So why?
Physicalities matter. In tennis, if you're big, if you look at the top guys in tennis, you actually have them very tall, right? 6'3", 6'4". So luckily for us in badminton, we in this room, both of us or the 10 people outside, most of us can be decent badminton players, because the physicalities of Indian physicalities in general fit into a badminton frame. So we can do well.
Okay.
Likewise, the Southeast Asian nations also have a physicality which is pretty okay for badminton. But they not be the best physicalities for a basketball or a sprinter or a javelin thrower or whatever that is. So I think physicalities make a difference, and these countries have the physicalities and also the culture of the sport, and they have systems in place.
What is culture of sport?
As a kid, you grow up and say, I aspire to be like a Prakash sir. I aspire to be a Saina Nehwal. I want to be like a Sindhu. I want to be like a Satvik and a Chirag. I think that is the culture, the inspiration which comes in, the systems which are there. Like I have a academy which is close to my house. I have a coach who is actually there. And if I win, I go to the national team. And if I win, I go internationally and make a medal. So the pathways are defined. But if you have a sport which is very new, we don't know how to do it, then the guy is not inspired. He might have the talent, the gene, but he is not inspired. We don't have any champions to refer to.
Yeah,
so that would be the challenge.
Well, speaking of new sports, what do you think of pickleball? The new thing that, especially rich kids going for it, and slightly older people also. What do you think of that? Have you ever played it?
I've played pickleball. It's fun. I think it's fun.
Do you ever think that it's going to get respectability as a competitive sport?
I
doubt it.
I doubt it.
It's a fad, probably, right?
Yeah.
That's what even I think.
It's an easy entry level sport because people think that the fitness levels are not too much to play it. But I'm sure any sport at the world level will have to have high levels of expertise. But everybody looks at a pickleball and say, okay, I can play it, and then starts off, which is very good because it just draws more people into playing sport. And that's very good.
Okay, so who are the people that you think right now who show the most promise in badminton and in other sports that you would be interested in, maybe athletics? Who do you think are the next gems that we should look out for?
I think that will be a very difficult question, unfair question. Because even if I answer and take out 10 names, I'll definitely miss out so many more.
Okay, I'll ask you for then 3 things that you want PM Modi to do.
I think, to be honest, he's done everything. It's for us to do.
But unless he says something, it's not going to happen, right? This whole thing that you have done, then why?
I think it's a lot of challenges which which I remember Modi sir actually talking about once, a bridge being built. And he said the railways needs to build the bridge. The land belongs to the army. One land belongs to the department, and there's a municipal road going behind. The four people have to sit. In a similar sense, we need education, we need the sports department, we need corporates, we need the socially NGOs and stuff. All of us to sit together to find the solution. It's not one person. I think what I would need Modi sir to do is actually bring these people together and put in them in a room and say find a solution and get.
But you have got people talking about it now. You know, my team's pulled out this. Nitin Kamath, Zerodha, he said, while I understand Pulela Gopichand's concerns, I'm just reading it out because in case somebody is listening to this on an audio platform, I'm just reading out this. So Nitin Kamath says, while I understand Pulela Gopichand's concern that, quote, unless you are rich, don't make your child a sports person, I have a different view. I think this is just the headline of that article that has been pulled out. Imagine studying something you don't like or being stuck in a field when you know that your skills are useful elsewhere. Odds are you may end up being less than average compared to people who are more suited to the field you hate. In this case, how can you expect job security? This is all the more problematic in the AI-first world we are entering. This applies to sports as well. If someone is passionate about sports, takes a shot at being a professional and fails, there are more alternatives today than ever. You can become a coach or a personal trainer. There's more demand for such folks today than at any point. We are seeing trend of some of that, and then he mentions people where they're going in. I'm not reading that out. People are willing to pay for personal training and coaching. We need a few of these to scale well, such as what whatever the person has been able to do for professionals for home services. So he's saying that there are more options today than earlier. Say in my time or in even by your time, the options were, like you said, Tatas, or you got a job in, say, a public sector undertaking, railways or bank job or something like that you got, and that's what it was. But today there are these things that matter. Even middle class people have access to gyms today as compared to when I was, entering the professional field. No chance of any gyms. How many were there in Delhi? Lesser in the smaller towns and cities. Today, even in tier 2 towns, there are gyms and personal trainers. And many of the trainers who are there are people who couldn't get into competitive sports. So Nitin Kamath, I think, is trying to say that there are options, so don't be disheartened, is what he's probably saying. Do you agree with that?
I think it's good to have, even if he's having a different view than mine, it's a good point to debate. And
and he can probably put in the money, no?
Yeah, all views are acceptable. All views are good. I think you have a view which is different from me, but that's no point. And since let people who are entrepreneurs, who build big institutions, big organizations, let them find a solution for it. And all I'm looking at is to have a decent solution for the problem. And today, when I won my junior nationals, I got a job. We had in the petrol. I work for Indian Oil. We had Bharat Petroleum. We had HPCL. We had ONGC. We have Oil India. We have EIL. We have HPCL. All of them recruiting people. Today, all of them have stopped. Literally, all of them have stopped. We actually had banks. We used to have so many other avenues. And when 30 people were playing, we used to have 20 jobs. Today, that number has become 30,000.
Arey, what has happened to you people, bhai? Why are you not recruiting sports persons? Now we've just named them. Can you please get your HR department to recruit them? This is ridiculous. I can't believe that this is what has happened, that public sector undertakings are not recruiting. I think you should. Absolutely should. I can understand private sector with small departments not being able to have.
But the problem doesn't end, and I agree with Nikhil Kamath on this also.
Nitin, I think, said it. Nitin but anyway.
Nitin said. Okay, I agree with Nitin on this, that there is an issue. That jobs are not the solution. I don't want my top level athletes who are world class athletes to go and join a PSU or a clerical work somewhere or a subedar in an office, in an army or something. I'm not demeaning those jobs. But that is not what they are meant to be. They could be much better off. But at least give them that safety net and skill them and they could be great entrepreneurs, they could build businesses, they
Okay.
could be great personal coaches, they could be coaches, many other fields are there. Just handhold them and bring them to the next level is all I'm talking. And those jobs, ideally they should not be doing those jobs. They're not built for those jobs. But at least you have a safety. By chance you fail, you have nothing else to do, nothing inspires you, at least you have this job. That's the basic thing for somebody who's played for the country, who's won for the country, who's burnt his life for the country. Just give him a basic job is what we are talking
Yeah,
about.
and you also mentioned about how they are told कि अरे तुम sports quota में आए हो. I get that, but this is something that I have seen that kids who get that kind of shove, no, saying sports quota reservation के through आए हो, they may have a chip on their shoulder for some time, but that kind of propels most people to do better in life when they get those knocks and they're told tum quota ke ho. You know, I know how it feels like, but for me, a lot of doors opened for sports quota because of that. I got through regular quota, I got through sports quota. I could choose, fortunately for me. But I got through one college in sports quota and the other without the sports quota. But it was there in my mind that I will get called a sports quota person. Do you understand that that thing is there? So I was like, I will play sports but never be called a sports quota. The shame of that quota propels you sometimes to positive action. So I'm just hoping that what you have done today is something that propels people to take positive action rather than just troll you or rather than the negativity. Are you hoping that it will lead to positive action?
See, I think this subject is not about jobs also. The thing is, when we go to a job, and I'm 22 or 23 or 24, my boss doesn't know how he has to treat me. I don't know how I have to amalgamate or mix into the ecosystem. So there's a fundamental deficit in both sides. We don't know how to work. They don't know how to respect us. And the entire story, you have DSPs or whatever, what happens is you go beyond. So there's no problem now. Everyone is happy because all 34, 35-year-olds and you probably are the best. When I won the All England, I was the youngest manager of Indian Oil. And years later, and to put my point, thanks to Indian Oil that I actually continued playing the sport and I'm coaching and I get my salary from Indian Oil. I don't get it from SAI or BI even today. So it's a fantastic support which I get from Indian Oil. I just want that same support for younger people. That's all I'm saying. But what happens is you are not promoted beyond a point. And when you get to an age of 50 and 55, and then you realize that everybody else is moved, but because of you playing sport have not moved up, there is a problem there. So I would really want us not to be given reservations at head constable level or clerical or superintendent level. Give us board positions also. Let a sportsperson and sportsperson compete. And you put norms saying that this person has to go 2 years to the Masuri Center, or he has to go to the Nagpur IRS Center, or he has to go do his MBA somewhere. And if he does that, then he's eligible for the top post. So don't cut us off saying that तुम्हारी औकात नहीं है. That hurts. And that is what many of us feel, that we are not respected, and this will hit you when you're 50. When you tell your kid that I am an Olympian, but I don't have decent incomes, that will hurt you then. And that is what I think is the biggest concern which I have. At 35, when you're all same age, you are probably better than them, you have a bigger car than them, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But at 50, when you're telling your kid, I am an Olympian, and you say, क्या बात कर रहे तू, कुछ तो कमाया ही नहीं, कोई respect तो है ही नहीं, तेरा officer तेरे को बुला रहा है, sir, what do I do? Every time you have to do that to an officer, then it hurts you. And that hurt will stop the next generation from taking up sport.
Okay.
So that concern is there because I've done the entire circle multiple times. I've been a player, I've been a coach, I've produced champions, I've also seen people failure. And I see the circle happening multiple times. And I'm seeing there is a big concern and we need to address it. And people who are close to me would know that this has been on my mind for a very long time.
Okay.
But every Olympics, that is the focus. Every next tournament, that's the focus. I just feel it needs attention.
Good.
Let's all get together.
So we have a lacuna. You've brought it to the notice of the country, and hopefully, whether it is industry, whether it is policymakers, somebody will, or a group of people at least, hopefully, will sit together and say, okay, he's brought this up. It's not as if it's for personal benefit, but it's for the benefit of players. So hopefully a conversation gets going and we can find a solution to the problem, because you're doing this for sports and for sportsmen and women. So thank you so much, Gopi, for coming to our show and talking about this. Thank you very much and wishing you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching or listening to this edition of the ANR podcast with Smita Prakash. Do like or subscribe on whichever channel you have seen this or heard this. Namaste. Jai Hind. Click here to watch the previous episodes.